feel like I have a solid plan for once in my whole Formula Car career. It's been a long time coming. I apologize it's taken so long. Let's do this. Oh shit! It just ran, dude. I'm Kyle. Welcome back to Boosted Lifestyle. Last time on our Formula Car build, we got the cart back over here after a 6-month hiatus. We built ourselves a nice chassis table and we mounted the engine in the back the opposite way. We also removed the diff and got rid of all that extra structure that was holding the diff. And today, we're going to be tackling one of the biggest issues with one of these homemade carts. Whether it be a cart like this or a cross cart, one of the biggest issues is getting the engine power to the rear wheels. And now that we have this big void of space where the differential used to be, we've got to fill it with our own custom chain drive differential. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how I'm going to make it today. I'm going to be using a modified KJ Racing style differential, but we still have to figure out some specifics for our chassis. And here's a quick rundown on some of the parts that we already have and some of the parts that we will be using. For our hubs on our cart, we're using Miata hubs and Miata knuckles, and these are Miata axles as well. We'll be using some 1/4-inch plate. We've also got a selection of 1 and 3/16 shafts. These are like farming shafts. We've got the couplers to go on the end of these, the splined ones, so we can weld to those. We've got some bearings that I'm sure I'm gonna forget the part number to in the description for our shaft. Okay, it does fit on there. We also have some 2.5-inch schedule 40 piping here. We will also be using some 1 5/8 120 wall. You'll see that later. We've also got a hone right here to hone out the inside of this pipe just a little bit to make it smooth. And finally, we will be using the Arc Droid and Fusion 360 to cut out some of our brackets. If you don't have one of these setups, that is okay. I believe the website is Cut Send Cut. You can send them your CAD files, they'll cut out your plates, send them back to you, and it's basically the same thing as owning your own little Arc Droid. Now the fun part is, for someone like me who has aphantasia and I can't see things when I close my eyes, I'm gonna stand back here for about an hour with a sketch pad, start taking some measurements, and try and design this thing in a way that my brain can read it. Wishing me luck.
I wonder where I am, who I am by now. Just another minute till we sister sign off. So if you're not winning, wave bye bye bye.
All right, here's our bracket. We can cut out 1/4-inch steel, which is pretty cool, and it didn't die on us, which is also pretty cool. I did turn off the lights and turn off the air compressor to try and like use the most amount of amps we could. Now, this isn't a perfect bracket, but I needed something to physically hold on to in order to design my second bracket, because I just can't do it in Fusion 360 and use my brain to like try and remember everything that I'm trying to do. So I printed out a bracket. If we don't use this one, we don't use this one. But it'll give me a good idea on how I want to build the rest of it. And it's just something that I needed to do personally, because I end up doing like revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, and then revision 3 is probably the best. So we might not end up using this thing, but at least we have it cut out and I can start designing around it. Oh my God, I actually sat down and planned a thing. Alrighty, so this doesn't look like much, but this is my intricate, almost to scale drawing. I tried to purposely make it scale that way when I went down to Fusion 360, it would be easy. This is a pretty good representation of our chassis right here. Roughly in this area, actually more specifically, right about there. Get a good look at it? Now let me explain it. So these purple lines right here, this one and here are the bars right here, upper and lower bars. The yellow thing is obviously the sprocket that's gonna fit in here. Everything that is on here actually fits inside the sprocket except for the upper and lower bars, which you can tell those things are on the outside of the sprocket. These pieces right here are going to be our new crossbars. Those are gonna go across this way. And there's going to be 4 of those. The red plate here is going to be the one that's welded to the differential, and the blue ones are going to be the ones that are mounted to the crossbars. You can see that this is the main pivot bolt for the differential, so everything in red is going to be able to pivot to tighten and loosen the chain. And then the blue plates you can see are slotted here on the other side, and that's when you pivot on this bolt that the whole red plates move inside the blue plates. And then up here on the top, this last little hole right here, there's going to be a tension rod of some sort. That way when you want to pivot, you loosen up all the bolts, You tension the rod right here, it's going to push the whole sprocket and everything this way. That'll tighten the chain, clamp it all back down, and you're good to go. Now you'll notice I added a separation right here in our plates, and that is because most of our 1.25 inches is 6 inches wide. As you can see, it's a plate like this, and there's going to be one weld right here, possibly. And you'll notice that our red one is not 6 inches wide. I have two 12 by 12 plates, so I only get one shot at cutting out these red ones. Which I'm a little bit curious about. Oh yeah, I lost the mustache. I'm a little bit curious about it because my arc droid likes to lose power sometimes, so if it has to do a really long cut, sometimes it'll cut the power. And with a big plate like that, it's just, I don't know. Scary. All right, put this in Fusion 360, design it, get it ready to cut. And with the click of a button, we can have our upper plate cut out. I'm not gonna lie, it took a couple hours to make this, maybe more than a couple hours, but I feel like I have a solid plan for once in my whole Formula Car career. That's huge for us. Starting a new era, and it starts with a clean face, I guess, because now I look 25. Go buy True North turbos. Second plate cut out. I do have an issue where the arc droid is actually cutting down at an angle, and I'm not sure if I'm not using enough amps to get like a full blow through, or... So when I physically look at this thing when it's down on the bottom, oh, it's angled now, but it wasn't angled earlier. So this play right here in the arc droid, I think, is giving me an angled cut or something. Even still, it's angled the wrong way. You can see that the angle that it cut on, so yeah, I don't know, man. Anyways, that's the least of our problems because our air compressor decided it wanted to die again. So now I'm diving into this thing, not wanting to do that today, but just kind of how it happens. And see if we can figure this out so we can use the arc droid again. Delay after delay. Kyle, what's taking so long? My plasma table isn't very level. So it's been cutting high on this side and low on this side for a while, but I haven't been able to figure it out why it's not level at all because, you know, there's a bajillion adjustments on it. Turns out the legs aren't the same size. This one's like 30 and an eighth and this one's like 30 and a quarter. So all of our legs are about an 1/8 inch out from each other and a 1/4 inch at the most. So now I'm just gonna drill out all the holes and do my best to make it as level as I can with this cheap little plasma table. But yeah, I've essentially spent the last day trying to figure this out. Just like that, boring out holes. Now Kyle's super sick, simple solution, just take a nut and weld it to the inside of this leg and then use the bolt as adjusters to make adjustable legs. Easy. Super sick, simple solutions from Kyle. Sweet. For simple little adjusters, they don't need to be fancy by any means because this whole table is not fancy. As we know, the legs are not the same length, but now at least we can level something. But you know what, now we can at least level something? I don't even know if this is gonna do anything. The only way to really figure this out is put it in the corner and see if we can level the thing. Leveling montage. Well, after doing some finagling and figuring out, I finally got this thing like a little bit better. But I think the biggest issue after really looking into it is that our 1/4 inch thick material isn't perfectly flat most cases. So the long, thinner pieces of material would be high on this side, low in the middle, high on that side, and it was just because there was a small little curve to the material. So we might have to cut it a little bit higher with a little bit more amps just to get it to pierce all the way through. And I think that's about the best we can do given our setup. So we're gonna try and cut out our other plates. We'll see what happens. Lower and upper plates all cut out. Exciting. So there is a bevel, and I think plasma inherently just has a bevel on it anyways, so we're gonna do our best to match this set and this set of plates together. And our main plate is gonna be made out of this one big piece of plate, and I'm a little bit scared about it because we only get one shot because I only have 2 of these big plates. Don't stress, but you only got one shot at this. I've done about 7 dry runs now, and this side of the plate is like a little bit low. So it's gonna be 1.5 mils running through here, so the cut might not be the cleanest. I'm gonna try it. We're gonna wing it. Don't forget to turn the air compressor on. Don't forget to ground the plate. And you'll notice that we turn the lights off in the garage when we cut the plasma cutter stuff because I want to use every single amp that I can for the plasma cutter instead of anything else in the garage. We only got 30 amps for the entire garage. Used them all on the plasma cutter and the air compressor. All right, here goes nothing. Why did you do that already? Basically what happened was the torch didn't come up high enough and it caught the plate and moved the plate. So we frigged it already. All right, we gotta reset. Take two. It takes two to take a poo. Piece of shit. Fuck you. How do you even clamp a piece of material to this fucking table? God sakes. So whatever this little piece of shit right here is from like penetrating, well, as you pass by it with the tip runs into it and moves the whole plate. Because I don't know how to clamp the plate on a fucking little adjustable table like this. Oh, hey, what's up? Cool, calm, collected Kyle here again. I think I have it aligned perfectly to where it was. So if we start the arc droid, it might be able to do this cut and that cut again, hopefully. What I did do was I added magnets to these two little pieces. Now what I did was I added magnets to these two so they don't move as much. And then I added magnets from the plate to those on both sides here on both corners, so it can probably get touched a little bit and not move, but not a lot. We'll put you here, turn the lights out, try this one more time. Yeah, the only odd anomaly this time was it didn't actually recut out our middle hole, which I never had that happen on my dry runs, but that is our big plate. We've got one more lower plate to cut, but I'm getting super excited for this because watch this. This is the lower setup right here. This is where it's gonna get mounted into the chassis. One bar, one bar, one bar, one bar, like that. This is the one that the tube goes through the middle of here. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit just to get it to fit through there. And that's where our spool is gonna be on this piece. And this piece is going to fit like this. No, like this. So that piece fits right here like that. This is our pivot point down here in the bottom left. And now these two holes up here are slotted so they can move forward and backwards. Now these two holes on the backside are slotted, so this whole assembly right here can essentially be adjusted forward and backwards in the chassis to tension the chain. We're going to be adding a 1-inch bar from here to the other plate, and then from this bar right here to this bar right here, we're gonna build a little tensioner that's going to help tension this thing back and forth. And we did manage to cut out both plates successfully. All of this will need some final cleanup, and the holes will need to be drilled out slightly. I do make my holes a little bit on the small side, that way when you drill them out, they're perfectly round. So I'm gonna cut out that last plate, we'll clean up our plates, and then we can finally start assembling everything. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it's gonna get us most of the way there. Our important hole is this one and this one. We want those two to be exact, so we're gonna drill this one straight through. And then this one is where it pivots on, so this and this. And then these are slotted holes, so they can kind of just fall where they want to, and we'll just bolt it down to the slotted part. Those are a little bit offset, just because we're going to have to readjust the plate, but it's gonna work fine. It's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it, drill it out. I'm trying to overcomplicate the thing because I'm trying to get better at stuff, but the cart itself is like a level below this level right here, so this is already a level above. Just keep vibing, Kyle, keep vibing. Hello? Just kidding, I'm over here. There we go, our two holes are perfect. All right, here's what we're working with. We have two of each of the plates that we cut out. We have two of these little collars that are gonna go on our shaft right here. We've got 4 bearings and our piece that we had to go get cut out on a lathe because we couldn't do it on our lathe. I'm going to try to assemble this to show you what it looks like fully assembled without pressing our bearings in, because we still have to weld this tube up and I don't want to ruin the bearings. But we're gonna do our best to just jigsaw it to see if we can get a visual of this thing that we've been building for what seems like forever. Okay, but like, I'm actually pretty proud of this thing right now. So here is our assembly. And basically what's gonna happen now is one of these shafts with some bearings. So the bearings are gonna fit in here, 2 on each side. Just shove that in there for testing purposes. This shaft is gonna go through that. So basically something like this. There's going to be a piece of metal on the inside to support the two bearings, and then these collars are gonna go on the outside. And this is what the sprocket and the hubs are going to weld to, these removable collars. And then if you look at our plate system here, I can move the whole differential on this front pivot point right here, and that is going to give us the chain tension in our system. I like it a lot. It still looks very rough, but once we get it in the cart and start making some tubes and start getting everything mounted and flush and vertical and everything, it's gonna be one of those. I guess the only logical step from here is to cut up the first front bar so we can start tack welding this thing up. Ooh-wee, kind of nervous. Holy bejeebies, it's looking like a thing. And this is why I tack weld things and just kind of put them in place. The only thing that's actually welded right now is this bar, and then this weld stuff is just tack welded. But I think I need to move these plates right here that are welded to this tube about 1/2 inch inwards. And then that way this plate right here is actually offset where the bearing is. And then the sprocket can get pretty tight to this plate without actually hitting the bolts on the bottom down there. So yeah, I'm just gonna break the 4 tack welds on these plates. We'll re-square this thing up, move these plates probably 1/4 inch in or 1/2 inch in, and then go from there. But look at it, it looks pretty good. I just don't wanna have to offset the diff off so far in order to line the sprocket up. So I'm gonna move the plates in a little bit. It'll allow me to move the whole thing more towards the middle. Looking good though. Alrighty, here's our new and improved spool here. I actually moved it in the width of 1 bearing. On the outside here, there's actually gonna be 2 bearings stacked, one on top of each other. So the plate is going to be covering the inner bearing still, which is gonna be great. This is roughly like showing you a line where the sprocket is up here. And then this sprocket's gonna go somewhere in this area right here now. And you can see that we've got room between our bolt and our sprocket now that we moved all the plates inward a little bit. So we're gonna tack weld all this in place and then probably work on the upper plates, getting those in place. Let's do it. Oh, maybe that film didn't film while I tack welded. It's all tack welded in place now. It's not moving anywhere. But now we get to test out our slot hole capabilities. Now there are going to be physical adjusters on this thing, so you don't have to manually try and move this by hand to adjust it, but we can probably get a little more adjustment out of it if needed, because this piece right here actually hits the bar. We just have to notch out that little piece, and we can get a little more adjustment out of it. That's kind of how the upper plates are gonna sit. We've also added this bar to the back, which is gonna be our tension rod. This one's going to push or pull on a bar that puts through here, and a piece of threaded hind joint or whatever is going to be able to push or pull the whole assembly forward or backwards. And this also helps align the upper plates with the lower plates. So I think it was a good addition. I'm gonna start cutting out some bars to go across the top here now, see if we can get this all locked into place. That's my wife Gina, Alien Trash Kitty on all social media. That's her twin turbo Fox Body Mustang. If you guys are new to the channel just for this build, we built that one on the channel too. Twin turbo LS, Fox Body, it runs like 10s and a quarter mile. It's like the perfect street car. That's on like 7 pounds of boost. And we can turn that thing up to 30 if she wanted, but there's no roll cage in it, so cut some pipe. Alrighty, let's make this all fit in here, baby. Once it gets bolted in and welded in, that's it, it's not coming out again. Let's be precision. Okay, that's not the pipe I was looking for. This is money, man, money. Oh, hell yeah, man, look at that. I love when a plan comes together. Look at this, look at that, now watch this. Money, baby, money. Honestly, I'm super stoked and super proud of this thing right now. Hell yeah. before I fully weld everything in, I welded in the top bars and then I tack welded our upper plates to the top bars. So everything in the chassis should be rigid mounted. I just want to make sure that all our slotted holes are going to line up. So we're going to test those first before we do any more welding. All right, plates hitting the bottom there, plates hitting the top there. So our plate on the edges are just a little bit too big, which can be taken down after when we have this on the bench. But this right here actually hits up here, and this one down here actually hits that bar down there. And I didn't take into account for that, but all I've got to do is grind out a little section right here where it's hitting on the tensioner. But for the most part, it travels all the way through our tensioning zone. So I think we're gonna be good there. You wanna see something else cool? I totally made it so the spool just kind of slips out. Oopsies. Okay, oh. I just need to like grind down a little spot on this somewhere, that's all. Imagine I just welded my spool in there and now it's stuck. Good thing everything's only tack welded. There we go. Now it's made to come out. I'm so silly. Okay, I've been trying to do everything in the appropriate steps, and I think it's time that we weld up our spool. That way we can start inserting bearings and trying to figure out which braces we want to attach to this thing. So I'm gonna put on a hoodie, because if I don't, when I weld really high amps, I get a nice big long suntan burn on my arm from welding. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tack weld the insides of these plates, and I'm gonna weld the fully outside of this. And then we actually had to put a 1-inch bar on this right here all the way through, and that's for our tension rod. So we're gonna go ahead, get some welds on this, drill this out for 1 inch if it's not already, put our bar in there, weld that in place, and then, I don't know, figure it out from there. I just know that I need to do that right now. You can also see right here that I used a combination of big filler rod and then small filler rod. I picked up a small filler rod by accident. So you can see the dabs are like a little bit quicker and a little bit tighter, and then the ones on the bigger rod are just a little bit fatter and a little bit spaced apart. And that's the different sizes in the filler rod. So the small one, small welds, big ones, bigger welds. Make it make sense. And now this piece gonna fit in this piece. Maybe the other way. There we go. Weld that bad boy in there now. The last piece we need to make before we assemble our drive unit is actually the inner sleeve for the bearings. This piece of axle actually fits perfectly inside this piece of tubing. So we're gonna use this piece of tubing to make a sleeve on the inside that blocks both sides of the bearings, so we can put pressure on these bearings inside our tubing right here, inside of our housing right here. So we've got to measure the housing, subtract the length of these bearings right here, and then that's how long our piece of pipe needs to be. Now, just to double check everything, we're going to put our shaft on our sleeve on our shaft. You're at like 233 and a half. I guess when you stack the bearings together, this outer race is actually probably a little bit wider than the inner race. So we've got to take another 1 mil out of this piece. But we're close. Now I just have to get it off this shaft, which I didn't account for actually. 46 and a half times the charm for sure. I think that's gonna be perfect. The bearing might stick out like 1,000 on each side, and then when we put our collars on, it'll clamp down perfect. I tried to press our bearings into our piece here, and it turns out that our piece, when we welded it, must have warped because these bearings do not fit in there right now, and now they're locked up, and I have no solution for this right now. Big sad. Well, we almost made it, and then we ran into that ridge. I have new bearings ordered. The downside is they're about a week away. I think the solution is take 2 of my best bearings. I have had 6 of them. We'll take some that actually spins. We'll put 1 in each side, and we won't run our center bar through there right now. And what this will do, this will just allow us to mock everything up, build the sprocket and the chain tensioner and stuff like that, at least see if it works. And then when we get the bearings, we'll be able to clean those holes out, hopefully manually, maybe get something, I don't know. We'll figure it out then, put the new bearings in it, and we'll figure it out then. But for now, let's finish assemble this thing, get it mocked up in place, get the chain on there, get the sprocket on there, get the axles hooked up to it, at least make some forward headway because this is driving me crazy right now. Let's do that. Now we've taken our shaft here and we tapped it for 3/8 on each side. It's a fine thread 3/8. So we're gonna shove this through our piece. Like I said earlier, in the final version, this piece is gonna have 2 bearings on each side and there's gonna be a middle shaft to support it. These colors go on the outside. So we're gonna stick a washer on the end and a small bolt. I'm just trying to find peace. That's our solid spool through there right now. So all we need to do now is we're gonna have to cut out something that we can put on here that we can weld our sprocket to. Here's our big ass sprocket. We've got to find a way to make a hub adapter basically that goes from this size right here to that bolt pattern right there, which is gonna be a lot harder than I think it is because my arc droid doesn't cut out perfect circles. We're gonna try and do something with this little plate right here. The plasma doesn't cut like perfect circles, just inherently the thing does whatever it wants to do. And our lathe is a little bit too small for what we're trying to do here. So I'm gonna sit here for about an hour and a half, get really frustrated at this thing, and then figure out another solution by not using the tools in my garage. Wish me luck. I should go get my safety glasses. Need these for seeing beautifuls. Okay, this one is like I was just using it upside down, but if I just reverse the rotation of the lathe, now it's right side up. Oh my God, you're so smart, Kyle. This is gonna be way easier. God, like what am I supposed to do? I don't understand how people make things. I must be stupid. I don't know. See you in a bit. As I'm doing this spool, I'm learning that my tooling isn't quite big enough to do what I wanted to do. Thankfully, there's a guy in town who has a Haas CNC machine in his garage, and he helped me out, and we trued up our bores here on the Haas CNC machine. So now we should be able to press our bearings in. Well, moment of truth here. Let's see if these things press in. That's 1 bearing. Oh, hell yeah. That's going. That's going. Oh my God. I stressed about this for so long. And we're just putting the shaft in here so that we can put our spacer between our bearings in there. Now I should be able to press our other 2 bearings in this side. We got it, there we go, that's all the bearings in this thing. And the shaft spins both ways. Now we just gotta make the end pieces to adapt to the axles and to adapt to the chain, and then we're like golden. There's only that little tiny bit of stuff left that's probably gonna take 3 or 4 days. Deep breaths. Our next predicament on our list of predicaments is getting the sprocket, this piece, adapted to one of these little tiny hubs that actually is splined for our axle. Now, obviously there's a big gap in the middle here that we've got to fill, and my arc droid can cut out plates, but not perfect. So I needed a way to mount the plate into the lathe. So here's our big ass plate that we made that's going to adapt it. You can see that it's not perfect. It needs a lot of cleaning up. This I 3D printed. This is the proper bolt pattern for the sprocket. And then I added this little nub right here for the lathe. So I'm hoping that if we mount this to this piece right here, we're not only going to align our holes, but then we'll get a perfect center hole as well. And hopefully be able to put it in the lathe with this little nub without dying. I might be optimistic here. We'll get one. We'll drill that hole. We'll bolt that one in place, and then our other ones, once this one's bolted in place, we'll just kind of, you know, fall into place. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna stick this thing in the lathe. And you know what? I just have to be happy kind of with whatever we come up with. I just don't have the industrial size tooling we need to make things, you know, within 1,000th of a run out. But I just have to be proud of what I built in my shop with the tooling that I have and the skills that I have, knowing that this is the best that I can make it with the tooling that I have. So we're going to attempt this thing. I didn't even check to see if, oh my God, it just barely fits in there. I thought it was gonna be too much of a swing, but I think there's a 7-inch swing on this lathe. Put our 3D printed piece in there, and I'll definitely be setting up the camera in case there's an explosion. I think we might be onto something here. And we didn't even die once. Probably best if you just don't ask. I just need to get it closer to round so that my tooling doesn't keep jumping every time I hit like a low spot. This is my dog. His name's Georgie. He'll meow bark at you all day until you put his vest on and let him go sit in this exact chair all day. Dog. All right, we're gonna tack weld this piece in place and then go line it up, make sure it fits. After, you know, I plug in my welder and shit, 'cause I didn't do all that yet. Get up on your feet, this is a now the sprocket isn't actually really bolted on here. I just used this 6mm bolt in here, but the actual bolts in the sprocket are like 3/8, so it will slide a little bit. Just want to throw the chain on here and see, you know, kind of what we're looking like now. Well, it looks like our chain is pretty well bang on here. Well, close enough that we need it. It'll be fine. This bar is going to be in the way. I didn't realize that when I first made it, but it's going to be okay because we can cut that bar off right here and then use a bar to go from here up to there, or from here out to this corner, something like that, just to make up the difference with losing this piece of the bar. And then the bottom one should be okay because the sprocket over here is actually so high. I didn't plan for the diff being this low, but it does reduce the center of gravity. Ideally, it'd be nice if this sprocket right here and that sprocket were on the same level so that the top of the chain was just flat, but that clearly is not the case with our setup. And here's our chain tension system. Watch the slack. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna quickly make a bar to get rid of that bar so we can cut that piece out on the thing with the stuff there that I talked about earlier. You'll get it soon. I didn't even measure the bar that I needed, I just started cutting. Look at me just raw dogging life. All right, let's weld that in place and then we'll cut this one off right here. It'll be fine, who cares? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, it works. This is gonna look real dumb. We're gonna cut that piece out that's in the way of the sprocket because we have no other choice. Had to go steal this from Gina. She was using it, you know, for obvious reasons. Now, I would say that this is the least important connection point, just for the fact that there's no bolt on the top side here, but there's a bolt in the back, on the bottom, and then on the front bar. So these 3 bars are probably the priority anyways. Now we figured out how to go from the sprocket up there to the sprocket back here and deliver power through this axle in the back. Now it's probably time to start figuring out how we're gonna take the power from that axle and run it through these axles. So we're gonna need some sort of adapter plate here. Once again, utilize the arc droid. Let's get designing. I like to make myself a rough drawing of what I'm building. That way when I get inside and I get on Fusion 360, then I don't feel like a total twat. Not gonna be perfect, doesn't need to be perfect. I just need the measurements of everything to reference. 110.92. And this is all I need for my wacky brain to build something. It's still hot. Now this plate should share the same bolt pattern as our axle right here, as well as this should fit on the inside once we machine it out some. The arc droid is actually a really handy tool, but it's really good for brackets and tabs and stuff like that to make on the fly. It's not good for rotating parts, I found out, because inherently the way the plasma cuts, it's always at a little tiny bit of an angle. So we're gonna have to 3D print another one of these like sprocket things that I can put in the lathe so we can true those up. I'm already 3D printing some spacers that I need for the axles. So we'll print the lathe jig next, and then we can true those things up and then get those things put on, and then we have a drive line? Crazy. This thing was actually like a big overtaking for me. Doing up a drawing, figuring it all out, like planning ahead of time. It's all new to me, but it should make things easier in the future. And I actually really like this challenge. So maybe we'll take on more projects like this. Who knows? We printed out one of these. This is actually the adapter that bolts to our piece that we need to true up in the lathe. That will go in the lathe, and then we can, do the lathe things. This piece goes between this piece when it gets welded up and the axle as just a temporary spacer, because the axles are actually 3/4 of an inch too small. And if I had my time back, I probably would have did like the send, cut, send thing, even though it's in the States for my plates. But if anybody knows of a Canadian supplier that does the same thing, let me know. When you've been around the game as long as me, the dirt doesn't really matter. But I'm gonna chew it because sucking on it makes me look weird. The popsicle's been eaten. It's time to spend the next 16 to probably 132 hours on the lathe, trying to get these two little pieces round. First, we're gonna drill them out, and then we're gonna bolt them to that little piece thing that I made, and then we're gonna put them in the lathe. I don't know if you're waiting for a further explanation, but that's kind of all we have to do. I've discovered that the holes are easier to drill from the slag side. So we're gonna knock all this slag side off here like East Side Mario's, like, hey, bada boom, bada bing. Ain't it funny how commercials do that? Name a commercial that you guys remember from your childhood. I don't know why East Side Mario's popped into my head like today, but it was like, hey, bada boom, bada bing. Weird. There's probably a million of them that we forgot about, like the Mandela effect thing. So anybody who's over the age of 20, down below, a commercial that you remember. Man, what is wrong with this piece of plate? Like, it's just snapping off bits everywhere. I'm not all, like the other one drilled out fine. What the hell's going on here? Not impressed. I think I remember what I did with the other one. I didn't actually put pilot holes in it on the CNC. I kind of just aligned this piece on this piece, clamped it together, and started drilling holes because that would be the smarter thing to do. Let's see how wacky out of balance this thing is now. So this is the only way that I know how to get this close to round enough that we can start to use our tooling on it. So what I do is I just take the flap wheel on the grinder, turn this on, use it here, and it gets it most of the roundness in it that I can use the tooling. Because if I just try and use the tooling right now, it's kind of like beating it up and just like hitting it because it's out of round. It's funny, if I just figured out, if I watch the top of this and use this blue part as a background here, I can actually see the high and low spots as it's spinning, because you can see that both of those are kind of like not solid colors. It's like a shaded color because it's like movement, man, movement. I'm trying to explain something that I don't know how to use the words to explain, and it's not working, so I'm just gonna keep doing it. This one has one little tiny low spot like right here. But I judge, basically I don't know what I'm doing, but I judge how well it's gonna work by how balanced it is on the machine. So if I turn this and spin it way up, and it doesn't vibrate the shit out of itself on my little lathe, then I think we're gonna be okay. I'm only making assumptions because at the end of the day, I don't really know what I'm doing. We gotta do plate number 2 now, and then we can finally put those on the car. This feels like it's been taking forever, man. That, and I've been doing a lot of things. Basically, our refined plate versus our unrefined plate, you can see that the hole is just way better. This should technically just fit on the cart. I think, I don't know. I'm making wild assumptions here again. Didn't even test this. So I think the plan for this side one is to get it to weld flat to the other plate in here, and then just drill the holes through the other plate as well. Hopefully avoiding, the actual sprocket itself. I didn't even take into account that, but I think we'll avoid the sprocket. It's the inner diameter is too small. And then the other plate is just gonna go on like that on that side. Now technically if you were building a cross cart or something, you could actually attach the brake rotor to this side plate over on this side. And all you would have to do is put a caliper over here, and then you would be able to control both brakes with just one caliper on this side. Or you can put one here, one over there. You can do as you please. I'm just running big Miata rear brakes because that's what my stupid ass thought was a good idea. Turns out, not that great of an idea. They're really heavy. Spindles are really heavy. The whole cart itself is really heavy, but we're gonna finish it. 2 eternities later. I was just saying that so Lex will put that clip in there, but you could totally use this as the clip too. Cause I'm just gonna put my music on and I'm just gonna do what I need to do because you guys already seen me do the first plate. And for me to show you the second plate the same way the first plate would basically be the same as like letting the rock smell what I'm cooking. Doesn't make sense, does it? Or does it? So this is the original size underneath, and then this is the new size on top. You can just see how much material we had to remove. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but on our little ass lathe, man, that's hours. Now, if you guys wanna see me build stuff faster and make videos faster, I just need a little bit bigger tooling. So if you guys do enjoy the channel and you wanna help out and you're into cars and into turbos and stuff, check out Black Sheep Industries, True North Turbos. The links are down below. We have some merch there too, so grab yourself some merch. Everything goes towards building the business better and will help get myself a better lathe. So this is our second plate, almost done. Only took bajillion hours. It took long enough that Amazon was able to arrive with some more cutting tips and some more cutting pieces.
Yeah, you told me today you were down to your last bit, and the universe was like, okay, here, fine.
Yeah, well, I ordered them last week knowing that I would need them again. And yeah, I just ran out, so. Thankfully, Amazon showed up today. Here we go.
Hi, Kyle.
We're just gonna try and tackle this, then we'll put it on the lathe to see if it's true. And if it's true, then we can put it on the cart. It's like 4 thousandths run out. That's about as golden pony boy as we're gonna get. Like, and then you can kind of test the balance if you just spin it up. Nice. I'm scared to weld it. I can go put it where it's supposed to be. Oh my God, imagine I used the hub that doesn't slide on there.
Is that what you're supposed to use or not use?
Well, they sent me a bunch of hubs, and then for whatever reason, one of them didn't slide onto the shaft here.
I'm gonna check that before you tacked it in place.
Of course not.
I see your logic. Why you do that?
Maybe it just needs a little persuasion. I probably shouldn't pound that on there because then I can't get it off and I need to weld it first, so. But on the plus side, look at that. We've got the sprocket on this side. Yeah, it's gonna get welded to the other plate and then bolts are just gonna go through everything, I think. So that piece is just gonna go through there for now and then it'll bolt up like that.
Okay. What? Cool.
Couple of welds on those. Put them in the lathe, true those up again. And this one's ready, you know, for just doing things. And then we need to weld this plate to this one still. We're gonna weld this piece to that piece. And this is actually the one that the axle bolts to. That's the one the sprocket bolts to. We're just gonna end up welding these two together. And then drilling holes for both of them. It's just kind of how it worked out. I didn't pre-plan how I was gonna do this. I was like, we'll get the sprocket lined up and we'll figure out where the axle goes after. Turns out we just gotta weld them both together. It's gonna be fine, Kyle. Like I've said it a million times over, this lathe is just not it. It's 1/2 thousandths cut. So if I go to take 10 thousandths of an inch off something, I've got to do like 20 passes, assuming I can do 1/2 thou. Sometimes it's like 1/4 thousand. So I'm like 30 passes to do something a regular lathe would take 2 passes to do. Oh my God, look at that. It only took 4 weeks, 7 days, 39 hours, 12 minutes. If you add 7 days to 4 weeks, that's actually 5 weeks. We went from spline to axle. Oh my God, things are happening. I legitimately spent 4 hours on the lathe today just to get to this point. Anyways, I didn't think I was gonna see this point today, but you can see that our axle and our spacer and our whatever you want to call this piece with the hub on it, is all together. On the sprocket here, I did have to notch a little bit where the bolts go through, and then the nuts are actually gonna sit on top of the sprocket. I don't know if that's gonna be okay or not, but we'll find out. This fits on here one direction because 4 and 6. Wow, look at us go. I wonder if this is even gonna work because where those bolts ended up. And then these bolts run into that spacer in the back. All right, so we got some figuring out to do here, but that's essentially what's gonna be like. Now I just gotta figure out why I went wrong so many wrongs now. This is a tough one to swallow. I hope I don't have to do this again. Please don't make me do it again. I gotta come up with some problem solving right now. All right, so I totally purposely by accident engineered it this way. If you take these bolts that were supposed to go through the sprocket here and you just flatten off one of the sides, it actually fits in there right like that, and then the flat side can actually bottom out on the plate underneath, and you don't even have to put a wrench on it anymore. I totally engineered it that way. The next predicament is that these bolts overhang like this little thing, and then the bolts all cockeyed and stuff, but I think I have a solution. Give me like 22 seconds. Ta-da! I think it's probably time we try to assemble everything now. It's been a long time coming. I apologize it's taken so long. Let's do this. Now the 3D printed pieces are okay for now because we're not putting any load on this engine at the moment because we can't drive it right now. But I can always get these made out of steel now that I have the files saved on my PC. I will not be making these spacers. I will get somebody else to make these spacers, but at least we have the files made now. So if anybody wants to help me make spacers, let me know. They're 3/4 inch thick. They can be made out of aluminum. First one in place. Hell yeah. Oh no! I forgot our little spacer piece has to go on the inside first. All right, let me go ahead and put all these bolts in here and I'll check you guys in a minute. Oh my God, watch this. Hell yeah. We only got a couple of bolts on this side because it's all gonna have to come apart again when we go to weld up the actual rig itself. I'm going to bring the welder over. I'm going to tack weld up this rig just a little bit more so it's a little bit more solid. We're gonna attach the chain and then try and fire it up so that the engine can turn the wheels. That'd be cool. Shoot, the chain is on there. There seems to be a little bit of friction and I think it's in the brakes and not in our diff. So for whatever reason, I think the brakes are sticking on the insides here. Now, obviously we don't have our tension rods in here to tension the chain. I'm gonna put some in this area right here, so you lengthen and shorten these and it'll adjust the diff. So for now, I have to unlock these. The chain is pushed all the way forward. If we pull this back, you can see the chain loosens right here, tightens when I pull on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna somehow, hopefully get something to just pull on that for now. If we just loop this around a bunch of shit, I think we can get the same effect. So I'm gonna start tightening the ratchet and you guys watch the chain. There you go. That's one adjusting differential in the back. Tighten up these bolts in the back. Whew, man, we're ready for it. Oh. It just ran, dude. I did notice that our chain does get a little slack on the bottom side. So maybe we'll put some kind of tensioner roller on the bottom, on a spring or something, just to, you know, collect the tension, even though we can mainly tension it from back here, which I don't know if it slipped or not when I started it. But our formula cart totally just powered the wheel. So I feel like out of everything that we've done so far, that was the biggest task that I had to do that I just didn't know how to do up until this point. We can literally mark it off on our thing. Chain sprockets, chain drive, diff. So now stuff like the cooling system is pretty straightforward for me to do. Building a shifter is straightforward for me to do, a fuel tank, the clutch and the brakes, like all these things are just simple things that I can transfer over from my car stuff that is just fab work, straight up fab work. So in our next video, we're gonna get the exhaust around this plate, build the exhaust out. We'll probably end up doing the cooling system so we can run this for longer than, you know, 20 seconds. Probably do the fuel system as well so we can also run it for longer than 20 seconds. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you really wanna help out and help get more projects in here and all that stuff, all the links are down below. Good stuff there, you know, just follow the links. Anyways, love you guys, see you in the next one. Peace easy, get that V.